Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Batman/Hellboy/Starman. Previously, Ted Knight, the original Starman, was abducted from a lecture he was given by Nazis, because those jackwagons have to ruin everything. Batman was joined in searching for him by Hellboy, who figured out the Nazis were up to some magical shenanigans they really shouldn't be. And while they punched a lot of faces that certainly deserved it, sadly the lead moron managed to get away with Ted. And with Joker unveiling a new scheme in Gotham, Batman can't go to San Diablo to help. And that's where Jack Knight, the current Starman, comes into play. Book 2's cover is similarly styled to the first, though some characters have changed places, the addition of this weird tentacle creature, Jack in the forefront, who looks like he lost his baseball and is about to use the cosmic staff to hit a few zingers, and a weird-looking shape thing that we'll see later in the story. It looks to be daytime as Bats sees the other two off, Jack making a joke about never being able to fly economy after this, as a bit of levity to keep himself stable with his dad kidnapped and all. There's a nice moment where the detective actually admits being enviable of his ability to find light in the darkness, literally and figuratively, showing empathy we seldom see him express outside his inner circle. Hellboy wishes him luck on finding the Joker, and Bats leaves, saying he knows what awaits him regarding his old friend. That guy needs a vacation.
Do I look stressed out to you?
You? Get out of town!
On the trip, Jack explains how his dad was in the army for maybe a week before he had to resume being Starman in the States for the rest of the war. Since it would have been easier for his captors to kill him in Gotham, this probably isn't someone from back then out for revenge. As for a possible metaphysical angle to Ted's work, the guy doesn't believe in the metaphysical, or an afterlife, despite meeting a demon and working with a sorcerer like Dr. Fate, or God's Hand of Vengeance, the Spectre. Even the very intelligent and educated can fall prey to the backfire effect. Christ himself could descend from the sky, walk across Lake Michigan, grab a fish out of the water, make it to shore, hand said fish to someone like Richard Dawkins, only for the fish to turn into a loaf of bread that looks like rye but tastes like bubblegum, then head to the nearest hospital to heal some patients, all being recorded and streamed by dozens of people, and some would still call shenanigans. Even Dawkins still holding the bubblegum fish bread. It's just an idea, that's all I'm saying. The lead Ratzi wanted Ted for a specific reason, and HB will check if the BPRD has something on him in their files, which may help reveal this mystery. For now, it's best that Jack gets some sleep while he can. Do starmen dream of constellations that look like sheep? However long the younger Knight's nap was, he's woken up when they've reached the Amazon jungle, and his breakfast is some freshly faxed info from the Bureau. San Diablo was a mining town until its copper veins depleted, then became a Ratzi nest. The head loser is Otto Donst, son of a war criminal with a horrific track record, and who's now following in his pa's goose steps. Before Red can elaborate on the Knights of October, the pilot announces they've reached the landing zone. No parachutes needed, says Jack, because the cosmic rod, staff, whatever, can let both heroes descend safely. But the big guy is a little skeptical. I'm sick of jumping out of planes and things not going right and me falling all the way down. Ah, I see Hellboy has flown Boeing recently. Starman assures him that won't happen as they hop out of the plane, making a steady drop thanks to the science pioneered by his dad. Things go smoothly until they're hit with a green energy beam, but Jack is quick to recover and get them to ground safely. If I'd known there'd be turbulence, I would have suggested assuming the position.
Phrasing?
Jack derides himself for keeping the staff's light on, which I guess he could turn off while still using its power. But HB figures that blast was magical, more than a human could have managed. That's when they encounter a Nazi search party, and Jack asks if Red is sure that's who it is, only for the strangers to order them to stop or be shot. Then they immediately open fire. Kinda makes me wonder who else Starman thought it could be, but more importantly, when the shooting stops, the heroes take the opportunity to launch their offensive on a splash page. Good news, Nazi search party! You found the savage pummeling you've obviously been searching for! Red notices their foes are wearing night vision goggles, and when he relays this to Jack, the latter unleashes an immense flash of light to blind and incapacitate them. Boy, that sure did the trick. Yeah, it's fun beating up Nazis. Never before has a giant red demon with shaved-off horn stumps, a tail, and goat hooves been more relatable. And rightfully so. They tie the lot of them up, save one, so he can give them answers and directions as they make way to the village up ahead. They ask their prisoner how difficult it'll be getting into town, but he responds with defiance that they'll never defeat the Führer's children. Yeah, I bet they said that to Patton, too.
I read your book, you magnificent bastard!
The goon isn't afraid of death, but Hellboy says he won't die. Just get beaten so badly, he'll wish he were dead. At first considered an idle threat, Red glares before the guy agrees to talk. Man, Bats is going to be so ticked off that someone got to interrogate a Nazi with just an angry look, and it wasn't him. In a book where, despite his absence, he's got top billing, no less. He confirms they're the Knights of October, and Jack immediately stops him so HB can finish what he was saying on the plane. They're sort of the German equivalents to the Templars, aka the Knights of Malta. After World War I, they vowed to make Germany great again and win the next war. Yes, that's what's written in this book from 1999. They bought into the Teutonic hooey that was foundational to the Nazi Party, and this mockery doesn't sit well with their captive. He rants about their golden ideals and how they'll overcome adversity to bring the Führer's dream to fruition. Leave it to the Nazis to take all the wrong lessons from those motivational hang-in-there-cat posters. They'll do this by summoning Sugor Yoggoth, an eons-old Lovecraftian elder god who was defeated by the Lemurians at the cost of their island paradise. Even so, he doesn't sound all that tough if he got beaten by a bunch of lemurs. Ted Knight, needed for his scientific and astronomical knowledge, would never willingly help these slime nozzles, so he was drugged up good to cooperate, tweaking a machine to draw power from the creature's native star, because the Elder God doesn't rely on its light or speed to get the energy, but has other ways beyond scientific understanding. The large cannon-looking apparatus has already been siphoning Yoggoth's powers as he slowly returns, and it's the transference of that energy is how they shot the heroes from the sky earlier. Even now he's growing, though it looks like he might be poking out from what could be a hole in the earth or a portal, but all this is giving Red a headache, so he returns the favor by knocking the chump out with a kiss from the good old right hand of doom. Now our heroes need to attack the base, get Ted out, and stop the creature from getting any bigger. For the next month, nothing but salads, fruit, and water for that unspeakable horror. Jack launches a solo attack, dodging enemy fire, as one underling goes to warn Donst. He's not concerned about a single superhero, since Yoggoth will be fully grown within the hour, making them invincible. Until then, the men shall hold him off, and Donst will join them after taking out the old man, both because he knows too much, and for all of Otto's scumbucket predecessors Ted defeated in World War II, as he raises a gun to the scientist's head. Fortunately, Hellboy erupts from the floor. Kinda fitting, you know, from below, like from hell, and makes the villain lose his gun.
I saw you in Gotham! You're that monster!
Yeah, look who's talking.
Nice!
He decks the creep and makes a getaway with Ted, quickly meeting up with Jack while they take out a few more morons on their way out. Later in the jungle, Pops hasn't woken up yet, so Red suggests using a syringe of some kind of antitoxin. He doesn't really know what it is, but has seen it work on a lot of stuff, so I guess that's why he just has it on hand. This is what happens when your medical expertise comes from binge-watching Grey's Anatomy.
Once again, Dr. Jan Itor. Dr. Jan Itor.
Whatever it is, it works, and Ted is awake for a little father-son reunion. He's aware of his part in bringing forth an elder god, though doesn't agree with that terminology, and how he was so doped up his body acted independent of his mind. It was like he was screaming to get out but couldn't speak. For example, he was silently aware of how his captors used incorrect wiring for their machine, but of course couldn't tell them. If Jack hits it with enough cosmic blasts, the energy from different stars might overload the power core. It'll for sure wreck San Diablo, but defeating the monster? A little iffy there. HB has a prayer which he thinks may send the beast back where it came from, so while Starman attacks the eldritch horror to weaken it, Red runs interference, pulling wires, keeping them from using their ectoplasmic rocket cannon, punching faces, and they do that for a while. You keep hurting the old god, I keep hurting Nazis. That doesn't seem fair. Not because of how big the monster's gotten so far, but because Hellboy has clearly saved the most fun job for himself. Dunst returns with some energy-shooting cronies on a rooftop, knowing Red would return, but the demon simply wrecks the house they're standing on and goes about his business.
I'd rather rush in and start breaking things.
He then calls to Starman, a signal for them to swap roles. Roles? Storebrand or Pillsbury? While Jack watches his back shooting some Nazis, then firing on the energy device, HB recites the prayer, since he speaks Lemurian, while holding some prayer beads with the charm we saw on the cover. Then it's a matter of waiting and seeing.
Good magic is stronger than bad magic.
After both have done their part, it's time to go, with Dunst cursing them, bloody and possibly missing an arm, vowing the Knights of October are strong, and Uncle Adolf's dream will become a reality.
Yeah, they're always pissed, honey. They're Nazis. It's like it's their job.
As the heroes leave, San Diablo goes kaboom, taking the Nazi scourge and their monster with it. The world is saved, and all that's left is to find a way home. The comic ends as Batman arrives in one of his signature planes, suggesting he had a good night as well. That was Batman/Hellboy/Starman, and while kind of an awkward crossover, I'd say it's pretty good. Not awkward because of the three characters involved, but because of how, despite the billing, one doesn't show up until the end of book 1, and the other is barely in book 2 at all. Sure, Bats had Joker to deal with, but apart from sidelining him from the bigger fight, it doesn't mean much to the story. Though I imagine marketing one as Batman/Hellboy and then continued in Starman/Hellboy would have been a tad confusing. Alternatively, they could have made the scientist an original character, left Mr. J out of it entirely, and just had red and pointy ears for the whole thing, and trimmed it down to a single book that was larger than any of the individual ones. Which, if nothing else, could have given us a neat moment if Batman tried interrogating their captive with no luck until HB tries his hand and he starts talking. But since the writer, James Robinson, created Jack Knight and apparently revitalized the Starman brand in the 90s, perhaps that was a big motivator for him. Heck, it could also be that Batman was added mostly because the other two characters were too obscure, and this would help sales. Because nothing involving Batman has ever turned out bad, right? Even if unconventional in method, the story works well and is entertaining as is. Exposition is very tactful and to the point, no dialogue seems superfluous, even if it's more to give us an insight on the character personalities, and I don't feel lost from the fact that I'm not familiar with Jack, Red, or their respective lore. I noticed some panels were close-ups of something that would naturally be in a given scene, but not necessarily clearly crucial to the moment. Close on a gargoyle in the city or a lizard in the Amazon. Probably meant to be atmospheric. The titles for each chapter share a theme of a place, a color that'd be associated with that place, and something bad. Maybe the similarities are where the complexity ends, or perhaps it's related to the pervasiveness of something as terrible as the Nazis, that they can be found in cities or the jungle, dealing with forces natural and observable, but also dabbling in the unknowable. That their sinister, deluded, and deceitful messages can be sadly pervasive throughout generations if not challenged, like with Dunst. Worse, if they try to rationalize or excuse their ideology to pull in otherwise decent people, or distract everyone by saying, no, these guys who hate fascism are the real Nazis. But hey, how could this all be sadly relevant in 2024, am I right? The comic doesn't go anywhere with Batman wearing himself out, so it may feel pointless at first. However, perhaps it's like Ted Knight's staunch refusal of the metaphysical, not meant as story points, but just how these characters are, short and to the point personality traits. Ted doesn't think the supernatural is real, and Bats strains himself on days that end in Y. Mike Mignola's art may be an acquired taste for some. Angular, blocky designs, odd proportions. I wouldn't call it bad, because I think it works really well for Hellboy himself, even if I've never read those books. And there are times where a given panel will be quiet and subtle in the best ways. Aesthetically, however, it may be more jarring to those more accustomed to other more consistent designs for these characters. Joker here looks particularly odd, but I can almost see what may be influence from the silent film The Man Who Laughs that inspired the clown. It could be intentional, or maybe my brain being crazy. Sometimes Jack looked like a slacker in his 30s who just got out of bed and will be starting that grunge band any day now, Dad. Or on the back cover, where the shadows make him look like Dante from Mallrats. This comic doesn't have an alternate ending where he's shot and left for dead in a convenience store, does it? This two-parter may be a little unorthodox compared to other crossovers, but I can't find anything terribly wrong with it. Maybe not everyone will like the art style, but the pacing is good, it's fun and exciting, and you can't go wrong with trouncing Nazis. Made all the sweeter that even a demon from hell knows how much they suck. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.